All right, everybody, welcome back. We have Ohio Jones again, and we're talking what else? Appalachian Trail. So, hey, Ohio, how are you doing?
Hey, great to be back.
So today we have a lot of things we're going to cover. We have a few different theories, and one being from Dr. R. Squared from his Substack, and I'll leave a link. I think I already have him pinned anyway in the description. But I got his permission to talk about some of the Substacks that he put out this past week. And then Ohio's going to talk about some of his. And then I have one that sort of, ties into a same general location that we're both talking about that I'm going to reveal as well. So stick around and let's get started here. So we have this, the map. And what I liked, this is one of the theories that Dr. R. Square said, and there's two actually, and it points to the map to the direction of Little Rock Pond Trail. So you have the first you have the coin, which if the coin is placed over the compass in its proper orientation, and you flip it. It does point to the north, right? As you can see in the picture. And also with the car north, with the feet, if you draw a line straight up, you'll get cardinal north, which also does, points where the Little Rock Pond Trail is. Ohio, you want to sort of elaborate on that and give me your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I really like this because, again, it's a three distinct ways, and then this is three different ways to actually get the map to orient the same way. One, I think everybody's familiar with, and that's matching the dash line to Little Rock Pond. But the addition of the other two, I think, really adds a lot of weight, just because they're very simple in how he did it. The coin, and you line it to face north, and then again with the cardinal north. And the fact that they are all in the same orientation is one of those things that I think could that really be a coincidence all three times? So, that one just sticks out really good to me. In the beginning, the car north thing with the footprints, I think myself and many others also, you would think, JCB, he's from North Carolina. You have the Tar Heels. And I was on that for a while, but I saw many people referring to Cardinal North, which it may be a bit more intuitive because it's Car North instead of North Car. So, in finding a use for that also lines up with these other two, I think is really good. I mean, the fact that he did this, I loved it as soon as I saw it.
Yeah, I got really excited, and I probably didn't explain it as good as him, but I highly recommend you go to his Substack as well and check it out. But he also noted that the line from car north, and you can orient the line any way you want. It really basically points to the same direction. But if you move it closer to the triangle, it does rest on the bottom of the triangle, which I thought was pretty interesting as well,
Yeah, because if there are three distinct ways. We know that because JCB told us as much. You would think that there have to be then three ways to correctly orient the map. And I don't know. That's why I love this so much, because none of them are a complete stretch, I don't think, to me anyways. And they all line up very closely. I don't know. It's one of those things that, and I even commented on his article that, I forget my exact comment, but it was like, wow, this is crazy. There can't be that many coincidences. So maybe I'm overly optimistic. I don't know. But to me, it's a breakthrough, I would say. That's kind of how I view it.
Yeah, when he said it, it seemed to sort of like downplayed, like, oh, it could be this. I'm like, no, this is genius. I think that was the exact quote I gave him. I said, brilliant, to put that on there, because it does give you a different way to look at things, Um, and then there's some other things that he did as well on here, which I wanted to highlight. So, we all seen the 1938 underneath the triangle. So he's saying that there is multiple ways to identify this. But for this idea, he focused on the dashed line in the begin here triangle. The dashed line meaning the Little Rock Pond trail, and this broad agreement that dash line contains 56 distinct dashes, and that excludes some of the other little markings by it. So I think that's reasonable to say. He notes that begin here and the upside down N 1938 appear intentionally paired. And at the AT mile marker, 1938 is a actual location in Maine, just past New Hampshire, right? State right above it. And if you treat the 56 dashes as miles and count south from mile 1938, you land at mile marker 1882. That's near Carter Notch and Carter Dome in the White Mountains. He says what makes it interesting, even if it's coincidental, is that this AT section visually resembles a dashed line, and a nearby side trail echoes the book's Rainbow Trail reference. Now, I know John has said in a Dave Colonna's American Treasure podcast that he sort of downplayed that poem, but maybe there was a reason he downplayed it, right? But if you look at where that is, this is pretty crazy. I added some other things in here, and I'll talk about that too. But, I was working on a New Hampshire solve, and I haven't gotten really far with it, but this made me come back to what he had said. Now, this is where mile marker 1882 is. We have Carter Dome, we have the AT, and I have Carter Notch Trail just because I was looking it up. That's why it's highlighted. But you have the bushel what I call apples. You have Mount Washington, okay? And then you have the Wildcat Mountains, which is actually a ski resort right there. So you have your skier and your Wildcat. And then you have the Rainbow Trail, which is a poem that comes right off of the Appalachian Trail. And then I saw Black Angle, or I thought it was Black Angle at first. I'm saying it again, but it's called Black Angel. And initially I thought Black Angle, boy, this is representing the triangle on there. And I know I emailed you right away. I emailed Dr. R Squared, and I was about ready to just leave work and go to O'Hare and get me a plane ticket to go out there. But even if it says Black Angel Trail, I mean, it could be a play on words, but I'm not putting as much weight on that as I did when I first saw it. And then I looked at the actual trail on All Trails, Google Maps, things like that. And a trail is absolutely magical, I guess, for lack of a better term. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so what I really like is that it explains why there's an N in the 1938. Because I guess one way you could look at it is it's a leftover letter you could disregard, or does the N mean something directional, like north? And with this here, I think he found a reason as to why the N is there. So that's something that I particularly like about this one, aside from the fact that all of the other things that match up. As far as the Rainbow Trail, I think it's one of those things that two things can be true at the same time. So when JCB was asked about the quote, hey, why'd you put it there? He goes, I think it's because my mom really liked it. Like his mom could really like that song, right?
Yeah,
Over the Rainbow, I think
right.
is what it was. Like his mom could really like that song, and he could have put that in there for his mom, but also it's a clue, just because his mom liked the song and so he chose that quote, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a clue. Although, I mean, me personally, I guess I've looked into it less since he said that statement. But again, I think there's two ways to look at it. You could say, hey, sure, she liked the song, but also it's a clue. So, yeah. And again, all the other things that match up here, Wildcat Mountain, I really like that as well.
Yeah. And
I
he
wish
also
it said angle instead of angel.
I know, it got me really excited. And this is a lesson, to myself and possibly others, that, you can see what you want to see when you want to see it. And I wanted it to be that so bad. I remember trying to get the correct spelling on it. And I was just so excited about it. I got it wrong, but he did say in that interview that he said he also put that quote in there because it's about a trail.
Yeah.
So he didn't, he's not going to come out and say something's a clue if he doesn't want to say it. And he's got that right to do that. So, maybe, when Dave asked him that, he just didn't want to say that. And now there are other rainbow trails on the Appalachian Trail. So, because we saw one in North Carolina when we were there back in July last year. So it couldn't, this could be this coincidence on it. But there's a lot of coincidences in this picture.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what do you think about the N being involved in the 1930? Like, do you think that the N is directional? Is it a throwaway? As kind of how do you think about that?
Yeah, when I originally saw it, I said it's got to be, first I was like beg in, like be in, beg. You have a dog's beg, But yeah, I mean the N very much well could be meaning north 1938. It makes sense to me. And it's not a stretch by any means that it could mean that. So when you put all those together, it comes up pretty good. Now I did notice to get to Carter Notch or even the Appalachian Trail, because I looked in where parking spots were, and it's a 2-mile hike just to get to the trail. You park up in on top of the mountain, and I looked at the view from the parking lot, and it's already so he's saying 3 miles from any road, so you already got 2/3 of that trip right when you hit it. So if you were to take Rainbow Trail down, you'd only have to go a mile, and it could be, which then could be 100 to 200 feet off the trail if you're going through that theory, right?
Yeah,
because that's what I think about. When I get excited about a trail, first thing I look, where is the access point? Where is the closest access point? And then start doing the mileage from it. Now it could be as the crow flies or a straight line or whatever, but it gives you a pretty good idea on that. And if I go to the next slide here, this is really what more of a 3D view of the trail. So you have the Appalachian Trail up here. You have the Carter Notch. And so you can see it's pretty hilly. You're at 4,000 feet around here, some of these places. And if you look at this, that's why it's called a notch, right? Over to the left of the Appalachian Trail, to get to this, it wasn't rated as a difficult trail, but it is very heavily wooded, with pine trees or conifers out there, very rocky, but it's very beautiful out there. And then you have the Rainbow Trail that goes down, and then you have the Black Angel Trail. But the terrain looks pretty wild. But have you looked in this area?
I did. Well, once I had read his article, I immediately went to all trails and started looking around. I didn't dig incredibly deep or anything, but it was interesting enough that I said, let me go look at this and see what else is in that area. So I kind of did the same thing, zoomed around, looked at the trails, looked at the names of some of the other trails, and that's about as far as I made it.
Yeah. Well, I have something else that sort of puts us in this area that I wanted to show to you, and I haven't showed this to you yet, but it puts us in New England, right? So here we go. We have Connecticut. This is all states in New England. There's 6 states in New England. Connecticut, you have the quarter, right? The tree on the quarter. Then we have Massachusetts, right? So I would, for the sake of this exercise, let's call it a scroll. So you have the Massachusetts Constitution, right? Governing document of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Is the oldest written constitution in the world that's still in continuous use. So it's pretty significant, right? Adams, later used that document as a blueprint for the U.S. Constitution. And then you have, let's call it a quill, right? For New Hampshire. That was New Hampshire was the first to write its own government. It was just before, in 1776, just before the Declaration of Independence. But then I saw these, you have the butterfly and you have these 6 marks, and then you have 6 dots by the mountain here, and there's 6 states in New England. What are your thoughts about that? Coincidence?
Yeah, I was wondering how you were going to work that in, because this is something I've always thought was something that can't be there for no reason, at least to me.
Yeah.
I was again, I'm excited to see how you use it. 6 states in New England. There are 6 dots. I'm kind of looking for the arrangement here, kind of as I'm talking to you. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the worst interpretation in the world. And for me, it has to mean something. I don't think it's just texture on the map. And same for, I know you haven't got to it yet, but the butterfly, those splotches have to mean something, I think, to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that.
And then you have, the apples that I call bushel, for the sake of this theory, so you have that accounted for Mount Washington. And then you have the cat and the skier, Wildcat Mountain, and it's a ski resort right there. I don't know. Things are starting to line up like with, you use the 56 to get you to this area as well. But if you took that LRP map out and didn't use that, I think you could theoretically come up with this as well, just by using the pictograms.
Yeah. And I hadn't done this, maybe I should, but after reorienting the map, like using Little Rock Pond and the coin, the cardinal north, right? They all kind of do the same directional alignment, how things line up in this area after having reoriented the map. Because are you of the belief that you reorient the map and then use it from there? Or kind of how do you view that, I guess? Or does that come into your thinking?
Yeah, for the sake of this one, I don't think it matters. Really? I mean, yes, it is. This is in the order. If you do the tree, the scroll, and the we'll call it a quill. It's in that order, so it is pushing you up to the final from the begin here. So that would have to use, but then you have the butterfly with the 6 blotches, and then the dots, the 6 dots, and yeah, it could mean mountain. I mean, you could be the White Mountains, right? That's in that area as well. So that could also indicate there's 6 dots. Then if you played connect the dots, it would look like a mountain range, but it also has, could point to this area as well, or White Mountains. It would be a stretch. I mean, it's easier for me to put it together now that I have something I think it could be, right? But,
yeah.
It's always easier when you're working backwards. But they're now, but to get back to your original question, I don't necessarily think it has to be oriented that way, but I'm trying to think how it could work without orienting it. I guess it would be a lot harder because they're still there, right? The pictograms are still there. It's just a matter of connecting them to an area. Because, we had our guests on last week, and, you can also tie each pictogram to a state, which is fair to say. Now, it is subjective when you're tying whatever you are, what you think that means to the state. And I didn't agree on all of the ones he said, but it didn't really matter because, you can make each one of them work because they weren't really location based, like where they were on the map.
Yeah, for his, it didn't really matter necessarily what the representation was, because that's not really how he used them.
Right. So, I liked it to the fact that it pointed, it could point to each one of a state, regardless of what state he was tying the pictograms to. It still works. Right?
And the fact that they were all on that same art. This is the thing. People come up with such creative and good things.
Yeah.
I like so many of them. I'm like, wow, that's really good. I can't believe that they were all on an arc together. And then the way Dr. R Squared gets the map reoriented, I'm like, wow, I really like that idea. I never thought of that. And then same with this here to get you to New Hampshire. I'm like, oh, wow. And 1938, and then you subtract the 56 dashes. Like, wow, another really good idea. So people have such great ideas. I don't know. Everybody, I think, in this community is really smart and creative.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think this one, to me at least, got me the most excited. Right. Just because you can tie everything into this. This is a clean tie-in. And, like I said, I got so excited. I thought Black Angel was Black Angle. Which I'm still trying, but what that also did was got me to think a little different what those triangles could mean. Because if it could mean Black Angle, it's like, wow, these pictograms could mean something else now. Right. Than what we would holistically think it would mean.
Right.
It gives you a different way to look at the pictograms and their meaning behind it. And, I think you had something, I don't know, were you talking about it with the 1727? I mean, if you flip that upside down, it could also have a different meaning on it as well.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was saying that's just the hard part because, and you have is it northeast, northwest, 3N? There is a lot of, with this map in general, hey, I reorient it and then I see something different. And I don't mean that in I'm hallucinating kind of way. I mean that in a genuine, it says something different kind of way. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what makes this so tricky. And, I do like how this plays into Little Rock Pond Trail because it validates the trail. And JCB said, there are some people that already, found a trail. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's on that trail. And this would be a great use for it. It's pointing you in the right direction. It's still in that area. So it gets you to look in the area, right?
Right.
It takes you from North Carolina and the other southern parts, and puts you in a general location. I think we have enough. I have enough information to think it's a New England area somewhere. Maybe not New Hampshire or can be Vermont, New Hampshire, whatever. I think this alone puts me in this area to start honing down my solve.
Yeah, and I was doing some thinking earlier this week about a while back when he was talking about, hey, when more boxes are found, I think the other ones will be easier. And when I forget what interview it was in, probably multiple, but he seemed to be concerned with geography as being the reason why, not necessarily it's going to be easier because the way he thinks. And so I'm wondering, if the Pokemon box is kind of in the South, right? There
Yeah.
could be a greater chance that the AT box would lie on the northern part of the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
Because the Fent box is out west. Like, we don't know where the past and future or the lion's share is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Just thinking about the Pokemon, and I'm not really on that one or trying to solve it, but I do know kind of where people are looking. So I begin to think maybe it is further north on the trail. And
Yeah.
again, if he's trying to get people equal opportunity to find it based on population and distance from each box, it's not a giant stretch that you would put at least one of them in the New England area, because such a large population of people lie on the East Coast and especially in New England. So
Yeah.
just thinking about it in that way kind of leads me to that general area.
Yeah, I like how it works with if you take the map, and I just thought of it now, or else I would have had a map, and I would gray out New England. Then let's gray out the Forest Fen states. Then we gray out the states where the Pokemon is, and see where that leaves you. That's going to be interesting. I think I'll do that. I'll go ahead and do that, and then maybe it will. We don't need to know the exact state, but just the regions or areas where the other boxes are. And that possibly could, help in where the lion's share is. Right.
Right. Because when I was thinking about this, I started to think about east and west of the Mississippi, because that's always kind of a delineation point, I think, in the United States. I'm the baddest dude this side of the Mississippi or whatever, like that kind of thing. And the Rocky Mountains is another one of those points. If you think of the old Art Bell, right? If you're west of the Rockies, call this number. And so we know the Fen one is out there. So when we kind of think in those terms and the spread geographically across the country, I think it helps fill in blanks. And I do genuinely think that's why he thinks that the boxes will be found faster as some are found, because it doesn't just eliminate states, it eliminates regions, like you were saying. At least that's how I perceive it.
Yeah, I recommend everybody try that with their map. I'm going to do it right after we're done with this video. Is look at that and see how that comes into play then. I think that'll help us with past and future box as well.
And lion's share.
Yeah, those two. Yeah, and then you could then say, okay, where would the region area that the past and future could, if it's on two separate areas, right? Some people are of the Midwest or Ohio area, and some people are on the Nevada area or Tahoe area. So that might help out, to distinguish where it could be. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. I think that was, man, I wish I would have thought of it now and I could have had it on here. So, but that's something, that might help do that. Right. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think this is, again, why it's nice to talk to people out loud, right? Because this is how you generate ideas like this.
Yeah, it's really, I do like that it could be in this area, and it covers all these states. It takes care of Maine because that's way in the upper extreme location on the map. And then it also puts the southern part of the East Coast in play, possibly. I mean, lion's share doesn't have to be in a specific region, right? Well, none of them do really, but for the sake of this sort of spitball session, it could possibly lead to being open there, because he said they're not in any two adjacent states unless they're large states, right? And I think we can safely assume California, Texas would be two that come off the top of my head. I'm sure there's others as well, but that could even, allow, Tahoe and California, right? I guess, or I don't know. It does leave things open, but going back to him saying once two boxes are found, it's going to make it a little easier. And I think that ties into this whole regional thing, right?
Yeah, I believe so as well, because you're not, I guess you are eliminating states, but in my mind, you're eliminating chunks of the country once
Yeah.
something is found.
Yeah. Like a region or something,
Right.
and it makes sense to put something up in the New England area. You cover a lot of states in that area,
Yeah. And for like what you said with Maine, I mean, Vermont, New Hampshire, pretty isolated too.
Yeah.
Up there. I mean, all those states kind of are in their own world, I guess.
But if you go down south, equal amount of states, you're covering a very heavily high populated area. So that's helping out that area too.
Right.
Right. I don't know. It just seems I could be wrong, but people let us know what your thoughts are. I don't know how controversial this idea might be, but I don't know. It puts it in play with me. I think this is a good area to put the Appalachian footpath box.
Yeah, that's my bias currently lies towards the northern part of the trail.
Yeah, it does. Now I want to, I'm gonna really, strictly look on this area. Well, I had my other solved. I was working on a Connecticut solved too before the all you need is a map thing, but I'm definitely gonna be focusing on this area for sure. So then we are. Do you have anything else to add to these slides that we talked about?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. So then you got you're not drawn by, and I haven't really heard this one. I think I heard something similar to this, but let me talk me through this one.
Yeah, so I credit to whoever said it on Discord or the multiple people that I've seen say it on Discord. But McAfee knob. So I was doing some more thinking about, because I think this is kind of, people talked about it at first and then it's kind of been let go, which is it's not drawn by me or anyone else, which is leading most people to think that there's a photograph or something somewhere hidden in this map. And people have talked about McAfee knob. McAfee knob happens to be, according to what I've read, the most photographed place on the Appalachian Trail, which I find interesting. Maybe if you were hiding a photograph inside of this map, it could be from the place that's the most photographed place. And so I just wanted to get your opinion. I sent you some photos on both from either direction it facing. Now, this would be the same way that it's facing on the map. And I just kind of want to see what you think, or kind of retouch on this whole subject of not drawn by anyone. And originally I said, well, the fringes of the map are off limits, but I started thinking about this, as I was lying down to go to bed the other night. I said, maybe I should revisit this whole idea, because I don't think it's a terrible idea that this is here. I mean, again, it is on the fringe of the map, and maybe you can see what you want, but there is certainly a resemblance, I would say. And maybe if it's not this exact place, I think when you look at McAfee knob, if it's not that, it could still be some kind of ledge somewhere. I just wanted to get your opinion, or first on this specific photograph and this section of the map, what you think of that, but then just more in general on just touching back on the not drawn by anyone comments that he made. Yeah.
I mean, what state is that in again?
It's in Virginia. So totally different place on the AT, but still, I wanted to revisit it because I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah. I heard this before. I also heard somebody say it's like a hat or something. I mean, again, you can, it goes back to my black angle thing, right? If you want to see something, you can see it. And, there's so many, it's anything that's subjective is fair game, right? It could be, you come up with anything. There's people that call it, I've heard the Harry Potter reference or something, right? Yeah, a sorting hat or something. But I do like that, because when I heard it as well, I didn't at first put much thought into it, but as we progress into, this more, and as I looked at it more and looked at it with more detail, the outer edges do have some really detailed, different style of look to them. Like maybe they were a picture, then put some filter on it, and and made something out of it. If you scroll, especially on like a high res picture of it, and scroll really close, it does look odd. Like maybe you took a picture of it, manipulated it, and put it around the edge. So if you were to take all the edge pieces and somehow manipulate them back, it could resemble the original picture. And that's why I like it. But is it supposed to help us with the location? It could be just, these are the places leading up to an area. It doesn't necessarily have to be that's where it's at. When we see something that sticks out and we have a really good confirmer on it, I don't know about most people. I know I generally start to go, that's where it's at, just because I identify it. But there's so many things on there, and I need to stop myself from saying that's where I should go just because I figured something out that may not be obvious. So, what I do think that it could be tied to that, but I don't know how to use it. You know what I mean?
And even if it's not tied to specifically McAfee knob, I think that it just looks different than the rest of the border. If you kind of look at that and then take your eyes along the edge of the page there, it looks different. And there are a couple other parts that stand out, kind of that look a little different. But I don't know. It just, like I said, I thought it was worth revisiting. And how have you thought at all since when we talked, when we very first talked about his comments, have you gone back and thought about that at all? Because I feel like kind of the subject has been dropped a little bit on not drawn by anyone. Like, how is it one of the pictograms that's a picture? Is it something hidden somewhere else? Are we thinking it's not a photograph and he means something else now? Because he wouldn't have said that for no reason.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull this up so I could look at it a little closer. Let's see if I do this. So can you see it now a little better?
Yep.
Yeah. So it does look, kind of like that. Now that I look at it even more.
A ledge somewhere.
Yeah. Let's look around you can still see it, right? Or still see the screen?
Yeah, I got it.
So yeah, see how there's
looks so much different.
Yeah, it does. It's got a real weird little, like around here as well. It all looks like it's a part of one picture. Because I do still think when he said it's something not drawn, I think that means it's a picture. Because what else is not drawn, right? Or placed on there. And if you look right here, it looks like could be part of a picture, like a backside of it. You see that? It's like a different color.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, you're not going to see this detail in the book, which is why I don't really spend a lot of time on that. But, it has some really weird texture to it that would indicate to me it's some like really high resolution picture that he took. And that's how he, like right around here, you could even see it more like some type of rock. Maybe it's a close up of where he hit it.
Yeah, I saw someone else mention that as well on a different part. It may have even been Dr. R Squared on one of his articles.
Yeah.
Sorry if it wasn't. I'm not trying to misattribute.
Yeah. But as you look around the edge, and this was something that he had said, Dr. R Squared said it could be something as well, in this spot. And as you go around here, you're starting to see more.
Yeah, and I guess if we're going to run this thought exercise out a little bit more, so on where a photograph would be hidden, I mean, if you look at the largest portion of the map where all the pictograms are and everything that we're familiar with on there that jumps out at, I guess, any normal person, for lack of a better term, when you would initially look at the map. What do you see? None of those look photographed. Like that bald guy, it doesn't look like somebody took a photograph of a bald guy from behind and put it there. Like that doesn't look like a bear in nature that somebody took a photograph of. So, I mean, it's going to have to be camouflaged in some way, I think, because none of the other big, giant, major symbols jump out to you as, hey, that's a photograph.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was initially thinking that thing right by the bear looked like a little cave with a bent tree on it. But then I looked at it, doesn't look photographed either. It does look a little different than the other images, but not as much as this looks a lot different. The border looks a lot different, and I'm willing to lean on that border could be part of one whole picture that he just cropped up and sort of wrinkled up and put around the side, because he knew, there's no way you're going to be able to identify exactly what it is. But maybe he took a picture of location and thought he had fun with it and put it around the border of it, wrinkle it up, I would put my money on that one if I was going to bet when he reveals it, when it is finally found, that what the border is an actual picture that's been wrinkled up. That's where I'm planting my flag.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst place to plant it either, because there's, like I said, most of the other stuff is obvious that it was a drawing or help, aided with AI or whatever to make a drawing, but like not a photograph.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a clue of where it's located at. He just put it in there, for whatever reason, get people to think about it and talk about it, and that works. Everything on this map doesn't have to be a clue. Right.
Right.
I mean, we think because this is what he's giving us that we have to now account for every little, crease, mark, imperfection as a clue. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. At least I don't think it does.
Right. And some of them could be maybe a more broad Maybe we're looking for like a micro interpretation when really it's kind of more of like a macro clue.
Yeah.
People are trying to, hey, this must mean specific area, when really it's meant to mean more of just general area.
Yeah, I mean, the just for an example, the AT there with the two X's or two marks on it, that just could be artistic rendition of an Appalachian Trail map, right? Making it look old or whatever. It doesn't have to be a clue. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but not everything on there, and how the lines intersect at certain places and things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a clue. It could be just part of making the map look old.
Yeah, and because I definitely think there is some of that where, hey, this is genuinely just texture, but some of the stuff just sticks out. It's like the 6 dots that you showed earlier. I've always thought this means something. Unfortunately, I don't know what, but why not have any other dots anywhere else why only there in that one specific spot? If you were using some dots to help age the map or make it look older, you might scatter them about a bit. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, I guess, but it seems like a symbol in itself, those dots.
And to have 6 of them, and then it coincidentally line up with New England as a potential, something I thought of at least. I mean, it could mean a billion other things. I'm not saying that, this is what it means. It could, or it couldn't, could also mean a ton of things. But, when you start putting things together, and that's the whole process why we do this, right? And chase out different ideas. And I like to sort of restate that. It's like nothing that we're saying or claiming is what it is.
Right. I ain't got a box, so.
Yeah, nobody's got a box. Yeah, it can mean anything, but it's a different way of looking at it. And when I read your Substacks and when I read Dr. R Squared Substacks, it stimulates conversation enough, at least in my head, that I need to go dig deeper into it. And I think a majority of our videos we do are based off those two sources. But also then when we start looking into it, like I wouldn't have found the 6 dots and everything if I didn't read his article, right? So it got me to look more into it and then find, something else. And then when I read yours, I'm like, hey, let's do a video and talk about it. Then when I do a little more research into it and put slides together, other things pop up. And that's when we had Gregory on last week, it got me thinking a little bit more too. So
that's why I would say that's why the conversations are great, because it helps you, get your brain flowing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets you to think outside of, it's so easy to get pigeonholed in an area. Great example, when back in July, I'm like, this is in North Carolina. It's in Wyabald area, and I was on that general area, that whole, I would say 100-mile radius for quite some time, just disregarding everything else. And it took a lot for me to, then I started going up to, I think the next one was Connecticut. I was thinking about, and maybe it's just because naturally I was working my way up the map. And then I saw Pennsylvania one. I was stuck on that for a while. But now that I think about it, I really never looked anywhere south of North Carolina, like in Georgia, which I've heard people message me and stuff that came up with some pretty good ideas of Georgia, but it just didn't resonate enough with me to think that's where it could be. Because honestly, anything on this map could point to any state realistically without too far of a stretch,
Yeah. And well, credit to John, because I can't wait until the actual solve comes out, because just to be able to make this and have people not be able to find it for so long when you have so many people working on it, especially since the trail was matched so early on. Whatever the solve is, I'm so interested to hear it. I don't know, because of what you said, that everything can match so many different places. Like imagine if you were creating a map to hide something, and you're thinking, well, how could I make this map match everywhere and match one particular place all at the same time? I mean, it's quite the challenge.
Yeah. And then tip off on the Little Rock Pond Trail. That's brilliant if it's not on that trail. Right. And I'm thinking, the way it's used, that Dr. R Squared said is genius then. Because he's acknowledging that people saw it, but he doesn't really elaborate. He sort of chuckles after it on the podcast. And, you have a lot of people that swear it's on that trail, which it very much well could be, but it also doesn't mean that's where it could be. And when he says there's people in 200 feet, you don't think there's people up in other places that are looking that aren't on Discord or anything? I think I'm willing to guess that what you see on social media in general is a small amount compared to how many people are out there looking.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think most people just want to keep to themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would say probably you would have a higher probability of somebody that's confident where it's at not sharing it than they are sharing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I only share it on here because I have a channel, and I feel that even with what I know, it could still be anywhere. I mean, look, just for the sake of this argument, look at the area where we just covered on the first slides. It is so heavily dense with trees and rocks. And, if it were, say, hypothetically, it was on Rainbow Trail, good luck. Good luck finding it. I've been watching hours upon hours of videos of hikers that hike through that area on YouTube. And this is something you might want to do. If you have an area you think is good and you don't have the time or resources to go out there and check it out, Google that trail and hike, like, Rainbow Trail hike. And there's people that take POV views of video on them hiking those trails. And that helps out a ton.
That's a really good idea. I never thought of that. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, it gives you a great idea. I think you have to sift through some, but it gives you and if you don't have a paid version of YouTube, you have to sit through a lot of commercials and stuff. I lost my nuts my marbles, and I went nuts, I should say, when I kept getting commercials come up when I was trying to like fix my car or something. Like my hands are all greasy and I'm sweating in the summertime in my garage. I'm like, I just want to know how to change this. And I just said, I'm just going to pay for the free or the paid version of YouTube, so I don't have to see the ads, because YouTube put ads on there, even if they're not monetized or anything.
Sometimes I listen to classical music, and I'm got my headphones on. I'm trying to do research on the computer, listening to Mozart, and then an ad pops up. I'm like, of all of the places for you to put an ad, you put it in the middle of a symphony.
Yeah, or if you're like some deep meditative thing, all of a sudden you start getting those. But yeah, try that and go through your locations. It saves a ton of time of just flying out there or driving out there and checking it out. And you can get a general idea of what the landscape looks like in 3D, right? Not just on like Google Maps or something. And but go to that area. It's beautiful. I mean, gosh, I just added that to another list where I want to go hiking outside of this treasure hunt, in the White Mountains over there.
And just to add to what you said, because I haven't done this, but a really good idea about Googling the areas or looking up on YouTube and finding where people are hiking, because it could, let's say you think an area is really good, and then you watch someone hike that area and you find out it's really dangerous. And you say, oh, okay, well, actually, maybe he probably wouldn't have put this here because of X reason. I think it is a good way to kind of double check maybe before you go spend a lot of resources.
Yeah, or even like an open area, because there's some parts on Appalachian Trail this is open. No trees, no nothing. You're just out open. Well, there's also, you have to cross bridges and stuff, like major streets, to go. But yeah, it's really interesting. That's one of the things I look at when I'm looking at a location. A, is it easy accessible? B, what is the topography like? Because like right now, if you were to go on a Rainbow Trail and that Carter Notch, you better have some snowshoes on, because I watched some people hiking through there. Like, if you don't know the trail, it's covered. It just looks like a bunch of snow and a bunch of trees, and if nobody's walked on it yet, you would get lost in a heartbeat. Right. And if you don't know how to walk in snowshoes, and there's like a foot of snow, of powdery snow, people are walking with them and they're sinking down. And then, these people are people that I'm sure, just based on watching them navigate through there, know what the heck they're doing. But, the weather there is sub-zero temperatures. They get snow all the time. Not a place I'm going to go recon. And I'll just watch my YouTube videos from the comfort of my heated house, and try to find an area. And I'm sure it's probably like that in most of your New England states. If you're looking, definitely not go out there looking in the wintertime, outside of just safety reasons. You're going to get lost. You're not going to find anything out there. You'd be pretty lucky if you did. But, that sort of supports the fact what he says there. But now I can't wait until like that time of year. I mean, when I looked up the White Mountains, the most popular time to hike is in July, because even in June they could have snow up there. You're at 4,000 feet. They're having snow. I was looking at some videos that were taken in June, and there was snow on the ground. So if you're thinking of going out in that, and I'm not just saying that trail alone, but in that area, maybe Vermont or north of Vermont, depending on where you go, there could be snow all the way into June.
Yeah, that's a really good consideration because I'm not at an elevation where I live, so I'm like, once it's
maybe
right. So yeah, the elevation thing is something I hadn't really ever thought about, I guess, just because I'm not from that part of the country. That hey, it can be spring in one place and winter in another once you get high enough up.
Well, it's like out west too. I mean, you go out, some of these places out in the Rockies, you go above tree line and you have snow all year round almost. Now,
Yeah.
Granted, he probably didn't hide something at that high up. I'm sure he didn't put it at some 14K or out west. I would just think. I'm not saying he didn't, but that would be pretty wild if you put it at like 14,000 feet elevation. That's tough for anybody, even if it's an easy hike. You got altitude change and everything like that. But I don't know. I think it's something to think about. And I think these are some pretty good items that we talked about to consider when you're going through your solve. It's going to have me look at it a little differently and, shuffles the deck again for me. What does it do about you and your solve? I mean, what areas are you now thinking? Are you still pursuing the avenues you're looking at before, or does this change your mind any?
Yeah. So the way that he reoriented them, that one I just love so much. But I don't know, like you said, I mean, Little Rock Pond is still my number one spot, I guess, for now. But does that mean, hey, you reorient it, there's 3 different ways to get to Little Rock Pond, or does it just mean, hey, there's 3 different ways to teach you how to reorient the map? I guess, like for myself now, like I said, it's my number one spot right now. I'd love to get out there and search, but I haven't placed my X yet. Yeah. I just really like it because the trail matches, and it seems like, I mean, it can't be nothing that the trail matches. And I understand it could just mean to change the map or to hint you to another place, but I don't know. It seems that if it's like, hey, go to Little Rock Pond first, and then from there you go to this other spot to get another clue to go to a third location. That's not how a typical treasure map works. Like a typical treasure map. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Yeah. Because I've done that too. I just looked up one time on Google. I just typed in treasure maps just to see, because I'm like, let me go back to being a little kid, and there's a treasure map. How does a treasure map really work? Okay, there's symbols that have landmarks, and then there's a dash line. Usually it leads to an X at the end. So sure, this is for actual real treasure. So maybe he didn't do that.
Yeah.
But intuitively, you would think that's how it works. At least me, until I see compelling evidence. This is how I would say it, I guess. I'm 51% that it's at Little Rock Pond, 49% that it could be anywhere else.
Anywhere? Anywhere?
Yeah. Well, again, my bias leans towards the north.
Yeah, I'm about 75% New England area. Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I'm thinking I'm at 0% North Carolina. Just not saying that I'm right, but and anything below, I don't know where the other 25% go though. I'm still not,
His comments about North Carolina in the past have led me to the same. I'm like, I don't think it's there, and Georgia just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, there's a skier on the map, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrong. And if you're looking in Georgia, good luck. Prove me wrong. I guess I'd be more than happy for someone else to find it in Georgia and say, hey, you were wrong. Look at all this cool stuff I have. But for me, that's just not really where I'm looking.
Yeah. And I mean, I really like Pennsylvania, but that's why I'm not ruling it out. But right now, I mean, when we look back at those pictograms, you got the quill, scroll, apples, what I call apples. Some people call them peaches. Some people call them other things too, which could be, again, hey, I called black angel. So who am I to say?
Yeah. And some of those type of symbols, that's why I don't want to rule out Virginia, because when you think of some of these symbols, I think are founding could be related to like American history and founding. A quill, a scroll, things like that. Virginia has so much of that kind of history that I don't want to rule that out. There's even George Washington and Jefferson National Forest there. So even the smoke on the map, or what I call the smoke, instinctively, at least for myself, I think of the Great Smoky Mountains. So Tennessee, I wouldn't totally rule out. Now, it may be less percentage-wise than I feel at some other places, but I don't want to rule it out totally.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
I was going to say, there's some of the smaller states, though, that I want. So, like West Virginia, if it's either in Harper's Ferry or it's not in West Virginia at all. Yeah. So that, to me, I could kind of eliminate. In some of these other states, it doesn't go, there's only less than 100 miles. I think some of the states are 50, 60, 80 miles or something. Don't quote me on that, but not a ton of trail. And so some of those states, I think, I mean, it could be there, but not a ton of the trail goes through it. So maybe less of a chance.
Yeah. Gosh, I think as you go further south, my percentage meter goes down. I'm thinking, but again, what if one's found and they're like, it was found in Georgia,
right?
10 miles into the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
Now, but if just for the sake of argument, if it is in the New England area, that leaves the southern part of the Appalachian Trail, I think, and maybe what are your thoughts on this? A different box being on the Appalachian Trail, like Lion Share or something.
That could be possible because
South Carolina.
You remember him? And do you remember him saying that something to this effect? Sorry if it's not the exact quote, but I knew if I was only going to hide one box that it was going to be somewhere along the Appalachian Trail. I think that was kind of one of his first hiding spots that he thought to himself. So maybe it wouldn't be out of the question, I don't think. But again, when I think about geography, the Pokemon box being in the south, maybe less
too
likely.
Heavily weighted that area. Yeah. I'm agreeing with you on that. There's some more things that Laura and I are going to talk about Sunday on our Lion Share on the next chapter, the Carnegie chapter, which is really exciting. These past few chapters on that, have been really exciting, but I won't get off on that tangent. But if that's all you have on here, we could wrap it up. And, next time I'm sure we'll have some more things. I know I've been working on some other stuff. I know Ohio's been feverishly working on a Substack. So make sure you check those out too, because, honestly, the most information I've been getting now is from you and Dr. R Squared. He's got one he just posted on the Past and Future. I haven't really dug into yet. It was posted the other day. So, that's something to look at. You guys put some great work out there,
Yeah, so I was just going to continue to plug him because he really does do a lot of good work, and he cranks it out too. He's a hardworking guy.
Yeah, he's got really good stuff, and I guess he's going to be a TreasureCon, so hopefully I can see him then. So
yeah.
All right, everybody. So thank you very much for joining us this hour-long session on here. Let us know what you think, and we will see you next time.
See ya.